Hello, this is Nick from Breaker Press Games, and in this episode of DCC Basics, we're going to talk about skills. Alright, before we get into the topic of skills, if you find this video interesting, entertaining, or otherwise valuable in your DCC games, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. It makes a huge difference in getting it to more people. So, with that being said, as many of you know, I like to follow DCC Rocks and the DCC Reddit page in order to determine what types of things new judges are asking questions about. And one of the things that came up in the last week was people asking about how skills work in Dungeon Crawl Classics. So, let's talk about that. Now, the section about skills in the DCC rulebook are covered on pages 66 and 67, and in the intro on page 65, it says the following. Outside of the skills required for combat, thievery, and magic, your character knows the skills dictated by the occupation they had before choosing a life of adventure. If the player can logically role-play the connection between the occupation and skill, then the player can make a trained skill check. For example, a farmer might be able to identify seeds, or a fisherman might be able to swim. If there is some ambiguity, the judge might apply a modifier. So, how does making a skill check work? Well, a skill check is made by rolling a die. If the skill is trained, the player will roll a d20. If the skill is untrained, the player is going to roll a d10. This is rolled against a set DC and modified by any relevant ability score. So, let's talk about difficulty levels. A DC 5 is child's play. Only roll if there's a consequence for failure. So, if you're a PC that was a blacksmith by trade and you're trying to make a sword, there is a consequence for failure, because if you fail to make the sword properly, it will break or it'll be super dull and won't be able to be useful in combat, or maybe it's weighted completely wrong. So there is a consequence for failure. So, but it's a trained skill, and if they have an adequate amount of time, well, that would be a DC 5. Additionally, crossing a log, if it's across a shallow stream and it's not that high up, the consequence is falling and getting wet. Not a big deal. But if that same log is across a 20-foot chasm, that totally changes the circumstances. Add in something like rain or moss, and then that escalates the challenge. So, if there's a consequence for failure, but it's an easy action, DC 5. Now, a DC 10 is the weak and unskilled could not perform this task, like kicking down a door or scaling a wall. As somebody who now has gone to the climbing gym a number of times, the difference between trying to scale, let's say, the large bricks of a viaduct, down the street from my house, was very different before I started going to the climbing gym versus after. And somebody, a casual person might look at these super large, rocks with handholds and think, oh, that's so easy. Wait till you actually get underneath that bridge and embarrassingly try to do it. There's a very big difference. So keep that sort of thing in mind, both as a player and as a judge. Now, DC 15, Feats of Daring Do. It takes someone special to accomplish this task, like leaping between two buildings or grabbing a pouch lashed to a galloping stallion. Once again, when you look at using a D20 versus a D10 if you are untrained, somebody that's rolling a D10, once it hits DC 15, that is out of the reach of somebody that is untrained. So when, as a judge, you are setting your difficulties, think about these in these terms. Whether somebody that, whether an average person would be able to perform this task. So, DC 20, heroes work. Only superhuman characters attempt and succeed at these. Somebody that is exceptionally trained, or somebody that has some sort of special ability or what have you that would relate to this thing. So let's talk about something that doesn't come up nearly as often, but is very useful to know, and that is opposed skill checks. And that's when two characters are performing opposite tasks, like a warrior trying to bash down a door and a monster or NPC on the other side trying to secure that door. Once again, reflecting on that example, well, a warrior trying to bash down a door that is being held by an orc, well, the warrior is going to roll a d20 modified by strength, and the orc is going to roll a d20 modified by, if they have a bonus to melee, for example, you might apply that. But you put that warrior on one side of the door and you put a wizard or a sage on the other side of the door, well, that should be a d20 versus a d10. So keep those things in mind. And of course, the higher side wins. So every action does not warrant a skill check. This goes back to that, DC5 and Child's Play. Something as simple as, talking to a guard. Sometimes I'll treat that as an ability, I'll set a difficulty and apply somebody's personality modifier to that role. But sometimes if there is no consequence for the conversation with the guard, well, there's no reason to have any type of die roll in that circumstance. The player says what they're going to say to reflect the PC's point of view, and you respond in kind. So if there's no consequence, there's no reason to make somebody roll a d20. And that really covers skills in Dungeon Crawl Classics. I actually find that this is one of the more rules light aspects of Dungeon Crawl Classics that I find extremely flexible, instead of trying to create an exhaustive list of proficiencies and skills, like, let's say, 2nd edition AD&D or a variety of skill-based games. So I hope this was useful. I think that this is a often overlooked aspect of Dungeon Crawl Classics, and it is one of those things that I find really refreshing, light, and fun. So hopefully this was useful to you. I'm going to hit you with some videos, and then I will see you all soon. How would you like to get grimdark content sent to your mailbox every month? Become a noble patron on the Breaker Press Patreon, and you will get cool stuff like encounter pamphlets and class guides sent to your mailbox. It's $5 and above. Go check it out in the doobly-doo below. A niece mutt wrangler has become overwhelmed. Her family is being threatened by poachers. Candace, Keykeeper of the Protectorate, believes she would be a possible future champion of the Helm Vengeance because of her fearless demeanor and sense of justice. But for this 15-year-old girl, it is all too much. So she runs away to be alone and reflect. When she doesn't return within a few hours, her family fears that she is in trouble, particularly when her younger sister is certain she knows where she went, through the dangerous Whispering Wood, to a landmark called Woodwitch Rise. Tragedy at Woodwitch Rise is a 48-page saddle-stitch zine adventure for DCC RPG. It is designed for 5 to 16 PCs levels 0 to 2. It takes place across 5 variable wilderness locations. The zine features 6 new monsters, 2 new NPCs, and 8 possible encounter locations. The adventure ends with a race against the clock in a sprawling boss fight encounter against a woodwitch trapped within an enormous tree. Tragedy at Woodwitch Rise is in the final stages of editing and is about to go to the printer. We are opening up pre-orders now through breakerpress.storenvy.com. Follow the link in the comments below to pre-order your copy today, or to take advantage of our fantastic Mutt Wrangler Saga bundle deal. Thank you for supporting indie games and indie game designers.